Okay, so welcome everybody. Tonight we're celebrating Liz and Irv Kadesh, um, wonderful people in our community, longtime supporters of the Jewish Federation. And I put together a little slideshow of major gifts over the years. Just want to say in the early days, we didn't have digital. So the actual pictures are still in the office where I haven't been in a couple of days. But I think once Gail Conklin started taking pictures, we have a pretty good overview of our major gifts. So if everybody would please mute themselves and enjoy the slides. Wendy, does it look all right?
You just have to go full screen.
And just click slideshow at the top from the
Yeah.
beginning.
Oh, sorry.
There
Yep.
you go. So just so you know, this is a silent movie, so you're not missing any sound.
And there you have it. So I hope you enjoyed that. And next year we'll include pictures from this evening. So now I'm proud to introduce Risa Cutler, Vice President and Campaign Chair.
Thanks, Sharon. And thank you for that great look back at all of the major gifts events that we've had over the years. Quite a history we have here. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. We are so thrilled that close to 75 people are here on various screens tonight to celebrate the strength of our community and the generosity of all of our Federation donors, and you are in for a great evening. Tonight, we will tour Mallorca, Spain, learn about some important JFNA initiatives, and honor two longstanding members of our community. Our event tonight is definitely the result of a combined effort, and I can't begin without thanking our campaign cabinet, Steve Rubinski, Mona Rieger, and Abby Distelberger for your leadership and your ideas and time as the planning for tonight's event took shape. Thank you to Harvey Kalis, Mona Rieger, Lee Cutler, Abby Distelberger, and Wendy Cedar for making deliveries for the event this week. Also, thank you to Georgia Mason for your ongoing commitment to our Federation and thorough record and report management as we build our campaign each year. Thanks to Sharon Ball for your continued support, ideas, dedication to our Federation, and expertise as we plan this event, as well as for managing this busy Zoom room this evening. And thank you to Wendy Cedar, our new Executive Director, who dove into our planning as if she had been here forever. Your ideas and leadership are invaluable, and as you can see, we could not function without all of our amazing volunteers. And now I'd like to ask Wendy to introduce our first speaker.
Wonderful. Thank you, Risa. It is my honor to introduce Eric Fingerhut. Eric is the president and CEO of the Jewish Federations of North America, the JFNA. Prior to his position at the JFNA, he was the president and CEO of Hillel International. There, he led the organization's drive to excellence. This program doubled the numbers of students engaged by Hillel each year to over 130,000. It also increased funds raised each year to nearly $200 million. His emphasis on recruiting, training, and retaining top talent for the system, as well as building a data and performance-driven organization, have become models for the nonprofit sector. During his tenure at Hillel, he was named 3 times among the 50 most influential Jewish leaders in the world by the Jerusalem Post. He served as the chancellor of the Ohio Board of Regents, where he earned a reputation as an innovative leader and an ardent advocate of the value of higher education. He worked in constant collaboration with the business community and elected officials of both major political parties. He developed a strategic plan to prepare students for the 21st century jobs. He served as an Ohio state senator and a US congressman. And in 2004, he was the Democratic Party's candidate for the US Senate. He received his JD from Stanford University Law and his bachelor's degree from Northwestern University. He lives in Washington, D.C. with his wife, Amy, sons, Sam and Charlie, and beagles, Pedro and Lulu. So, Eric, welcome.
Thank you, Wendy. Thanks for that kind introduction. And it's wonderful to be back with you. When I was watching the video highlights, I realized that it's been a whole year since we've been together. I don't remember the exact date. Maybe you all remember the exact date. And I imagine that we all thought and hoped we'd be back in person by now in one of the beautiful homes that I saw from the previous years. So we'll just have to appreciate the fact that I'm in every one of your homes tonight, and you're in my home. You're in my basement in Washington, D.C., and so we know each other in an intimate way that we wouldn't otherwise. But Baruch Hashem, God willing, we will be together in person soon. And I look forward to coming and visiting you and meeting all my friends from the Orange County Jewish Federation, who I meet on the screen, and meeting you in person. Wendy, I want to wish you all the best in your work. We're so proud of you and looking forward to working together. And of course, Sharon, thanks for all that you do. And Risa, what a pleasure to be back together with you and this great community. And I won't go on naming all of the wonderful leaders that are on the screen, but I want to thank you for all that you do for the Jewish community in which you live and for the Jewish collective, the system around the world. You know, when I checked back in with your website to see what's new since we've last been together, and was just reminded again of all that you do to care for the needy in your community, to inspire Jewish life with education and engagement and commitment, welcoming new families into your communities, and of course to connect with Jews around the world, the humanitarian needs and humanitarian causes. You talk about building strong Jewish communities. You know, the truth is that what makes us so strong is the collective that's on this screen, but also the larger collective that you're part of. So it's my chance to remind you tonight that this great Jewish Federation sits together with 145 other Jewish federations, from the largest, which is not too far from you, the UJ Federation of New York, which is of course the largest Jewish community in North America, to our smallest communities around North America. But we are organized together in every community. And the truth is, the goal of building strong Jewish communities that you are committed to is the goal of each and every one of these 146 Jewish communities. We talk about building flourishing communities. What is a flourishing Jewish community? Well, it's a community that's healthy. And of course, have we been reminded firsthand to not take the health needs of our communities for granted over these last 2 years. It's a community that's caring. And of course, all of our communities have experienced a rising increase in need. It's a community that's safe. And once again, we've experienced, as you have intimately, the rise of violence against Jews in North America. October 27th, just a week or so ago, was the 3rd anniversary of the shootings in Pittsburgh at the Tree of Life Synagogue. And we've experienced numerous violent incidents since in those past 3 years. It's a community, a flourishing Jewish community is one that is welcoming and inclusive, as you are. This is the most diverse generation of Jews in the history of the Jewish people. We are diverse racially, ethnically, religiously, in every possible way. And we need to be open and welcoming. It's a community that's educated, engaged, and know what its teachings are, what its history is, and how we are tied together as a people. It's a community that's involved in the broader society in which we live. We are, after all, a minority in a larger society. The success of the Jewish people in the United States, in North America, is a result of the stable government and civil society that enables not only us, but other ethnic and religious groups to flourish. And we play a role in that. We're your government relations office in Washington. You are involved in government relations and community relations. We connect to other communities all the time. And finally, of course, it's a community that is deeply connected to the state of Israel and to the global Jewish people. I tell you this because it really is remarkable that while our federation system each community is so different, that our values and the work we do together is so united and so similar. And so we've seen it together. You know, we were together a year ago. We were deeper into the COVID crisis when we were together, but we still didn't know what the trajectory would be. I was able to share with you some of the of the successes that we had early in the COVID crisis, but we shouldn't forget them, that we collectively, as a Jewish communal collective, we organized ourselves in our government advocacy to make sure our communities were involved in the COVID relief packages, particularly in the payroll protection program, which helped every single synagogue, every single JCC, human services agency. Over $800 million came into the community thanks to your advocacy and then your assistance in helping that happen. We helped organize and brought personal protective equipment to our communities early in the crisis. Our 146 federations, including yourselves, collectively raised $150 million above and beyond our annual campaigns. We talked about that a year ago, but since then, the efforts have not let up. I want to tell you what happened last year. It's really important that you on this important Zoom and this major gifts group understand what this collective community did. So if you let's think back to COVID began February, by March of 2020, we were really deep into everything was shutting down. We didn't know what was going to be happening. Our businesses were shutting down. Our JCCs were closing their doors. Our kids were at home. And in that first few months, we had our emergency campaigns and we had our public campaigns. The PPP loans came in and they lasted until June of 2020. And I thought, certainly, I'm a former member of Congress, public official. I know government advocacy pretty well. I thought there'd be another program that would come along immediately. And in fact, that's not what happened. What happened was Congress and the president couldn't get their act together and the crisis deepened. People thought it was going to be over. The crisis deepened and the demands on our human services agency started growing. The mental health needs, the cash assistance needs, the vocational service needs were growing. So that by the fall of last year, by the fall of 2020, we knew we had a full-blown crisis on our hands. And here's what's important. Here's what we did together. First, we raised $18 million at the national level from national foundations and major donors who saw that the federation system, our footprint, our reach into every community was the quickest and best way to help those in need. And then we said to each federation, we said, you can have this money, but you need to match it 2 to 1. You need to go to your local donors and you need to raise $2 for every $1 that we have in the national fund. And I want you to know that over 100 federations, including yourselves, responded to that urgent need. Donors added to their already generosity of the last year. New donors came in. Those who hadn't been with us for a while came back. And we ended up raising from September 1st of 2020 to December 31st, the end of last year, $62 million, out of which we didn't take 1 penny of administrative costs because we have in place the infrastructure. You have in place the staff and the volunteers that you have organized. You help us through your dues to have in place the national staff that enabled to us. We didn't have to take 1 penny out. $62 million went directly to the frontline human services cash assistance needs of our communities in the last 4 months of 2020. And then the money was able to be used into the beginning of 2021. That's a remarkable story. It's a remarkable story. And only a Jewish Federation system that both is strong in each community and is able to work collectively, is able to do those things. It is every bit as profound historical achievement as the greatest achievements of this Jewish Federation in history, helping the Olim coming to Israel, freeing Soviet Jews, caring for making sure Israel survived through its existential crisis. This was a historic time, and you and all of your colleagues across the country and across North America rose to the occasion. Now, unfortunately, COVID wasn't the only issue that we've been dealing with together over the last year and a half. I already mentioned the security challenges that unfortunately have not gone away and have only grown worse. And so the need to respond to the security needs of our community has continued to grow. And I'm proud to tell you that today There are 45 federations that have community security initiatives that are working closely together in a coordinated way, including yourselves, to work together to secure, to have security plans, to make sure that our synagogues and our agencies know how to respond, that we are connected through an organization that you helped create, the Secured Community Network, to provide the expertise and to be linked to the FBI and to be linked to Homeland Security, and that our advocacy in Washington helped create something called the Nonprofit Security Grant Program, which enables us to get grants to buy cameras and to harden the doors and all the things that are needed. And that we've been able to ask Congress and successfully increased from what was originally 9 million, then 18 million. We're now at $180 million a year, of which, thanks to your work, $100 million last year came into the Jewish community to buy the cameras and to reinforce the security of our community. But that's not enough, because we need to do this everywhere across the Jewish community. And so we have a campaign that we're in the middle of called Live Secure, the commitment of which is that within 3 years, we will have every community in North America secured at the highest levels of communal security, so that people know that they can participate in Jewish life. They can send their kids to the JCC. They can drop their kids off at the synagogues. They can take their kids to the camps and know that we are caring for their safety and security. That's the work that only a Jewish collective, the Jewish Federation System, can do. And I want you to know that the security issues that we care about and that we've been involved in aren't just here in North America, because indeed we've been involved in Jewish security around the world. You know, I started at JFNA, the Jewish Federation of North America, as president of 2019. At Yom Kippur in Halle, Germany, you know the story. There was an armed attack on a synagogue. About an hour and a half, I went to visit it. About an hour and a half outside of Berlin, relatively small town, not a big Jewish community. You would feel very, familiar and comfortable there, outside near a major Jewish community in Berlin, but not really part of that community. But here's the remarkable thing. 55, at least, it might have been a little more, 55 worshipers were in the middle of the Yom Kippur prayers when an armed attacker shooting tried to break into that synagogue and murder them. Why didn't he get in? Why was he not able to get in? He wasn't able to get in because they had a security camera that was appropriately, the screen inside. So when they heard the disturbance, they could look out and see what was happening and lock the doors and impose the security measures that they had rehearsed and practiced. Even though the shooter was shooting at the door, he couldn't get through. Why? Because the reinforced door was a special security door. Now, here's the question. How is it possible? How did it happen that a small synagogue, hour and a half, almost 2 hours outside of Berlin, in a city that I had never heard of, you heard of Halle, Germany, in a city that nobody had ever heard of, had this level of security? Was it because of the German government? No. Was it because of the local government? No. It was because of the Jewish collective, of the Jewish Federation System, what you're part of. Because our support in our partnership with the Jewish Agency for Israel, which of course has been our historic partner, that has brought Olim to Israel and is continuing to bring Olim to Israel. And I'm going to tell you that story in 1 second. I'll tell you what's coming in a second. That Jewish agency had a security team that went across Europe, found vulnerable communities, and with funds that we provided, that you raised, sent together, combined with the funds of 145 other federations, went to the Jewish agency, was used to pay for those experts and to buy those security cameras. My friends, you saved lives of worshipers. And can you imagine what we'd be talking about today if that hadn't happened? Can we even think about what would have happened to have a massacre on German soil on Yom Kippur during prayer in the 21st century. Unthinkable. Well, it was thinkable, and it was prevented by you. Even as we speak today, there are Jews in Ethiopia who are waiting to be reunited with their families in Israel, who have been approved for admission to Israel by the government, by a new government decision after vetting and all the debate and discussion about whether this was a community that was part of that was part of the great Aliyah to Israel. And as we speak, you may be reading this in the paper, the rebels in Ethiopia who are fighting against the government have been approaching the capital. And the fighting is getting worse. And even as we speak, obviously I can't tell you every detail, and I'm sure I don't even know every detail. But as we speak, the representatives of the Jewish Agency, our partners who we support, are on the ground in Ethiopia, helping make sure that our community is safe and is ready to make this next great exodus to come to Israel. This is the work of the Jewish Collective. You know, I know this is a little bit heavy, but I was thinking as I was telling the story, I was thinking about one of my favorite stories. You know, you all know about the wise men of Chelm, you know, the famous wise men of Chelm. These were the Jews. This was a very Hasidic community in Europe, and they didn't always get the story exactly right. They were kind of 45 degrees off on whatever the story was. So one of the famous stories, the wise men of Chelm, is two men who are two Hasids. They're walking down the street one day, and one's carrying an umbrella. It starts to rain. So the one without the umbrella says to the one with the umbrella, "Quick, open your umbrella." And the one with the umbrella says, "No, it won't do any good." So why not? The first one says. The second one says, "It's got a hole in it." The first one says, "Well, why did you bring it?" The second one says, "I didn't know it was going to rain." So this is, this is a joke, but the truth is that carrying the umbrella without holes, having the umbrella, is what we do. We are there all the time, whether it's going to rain or not. Our job and your job tonight with Major Gifts is to make sure that there's no holes in the umbrella, to make sure that that umbrella is ready to be opened every time we need it. And you never know when we're going to need it, whether it's on Yom Kippur in Halle, Germany, or whether it's in a synagogue in America, or whether it's when the next virus comes at us, or whatever the form of need is. Our job is to make sure that we are there. I mentioned, of course, that your neighbors, in New York City are the largest federation, and it never leaves my mind that they used to have a slogan that said, "We were there on 9/11 because we were there on 9/10." Right? The point is, you can't put an organization like the Jewish Federations together in the middle of a crisis. You have to be organized. When I was in Wendy's nice introduction to me, she mentioned that prior to joining the Jewish Federations, I was the CEO of Hillel. And I came to Hillel when the BDS campaigns were starting to rise on campus. And unfortunately, that situation continues to get worse. I would have people call me, lovely donors, say, "I want to help you fight BDS on campus." And I'd say, "Great. Then you're going to help us pay for Shabbos dinner, right? You're going to help us pay for the bagel brunch on Sunday. You're going to help us pay for the freshman barbecue when the students come back to say, oh, no. I'm glad you do those things. I want to help you fight BDS." I said, "Well, how are we going to fight BDS on campus if we don't first bring the students together to meet each other and to know each other and to feel safe with each other, and then to put committees together to be able to organize them?" You can't create community in the middle of a crisis. You must have a community, and then a community responds to crisis. This great Jewish community of Orange County, New York, of Great Orange County, you are together year in and year out, and I'm so proud that I'm with you a second time because you understand this, right? You fundamentally understand that we must be together at all times, organized at all times, and the needs God willing, won't be a crisis this year. There'll be the normal needs of a Jewish community, caring for our seniors, helping our young children connect to PJ Library, and helping them go to camp, and helping them, go on trips to Israel. And God willing, it'll be welcoming new couples to your community, and new families to your community, and new children to your community. That's the normal business of Jewish life that we engage in and we support year in and year out. And it's a beautiful thing, but we never know also when that phone is going to ring, or these days when the alert is going to go off. I guess the phones don't ring anymore, right? The alert is going to go off on your phone, and you're going to know that it's time, that you've been called, and that it's time for us to swing into action. And so I just really want to thank you for the responses to the crises, but more importantly, really, truly, I want to thank you for being there day in and day out, year in and year out. And I want you to know that you are not alone, that you are together with the powerful, powerful Jewish collective across North America and across the world, that through your leadership, you can reach any place in the world tonight to help. And you are, in fact, reaching around the world to help, even as we sit here together tonight. And I know that there are Jews down the street and in your community who you're also helping tonight, who I don't know, but who you know. And so the power of that action is what makes me so proud to be with you. If you'll allow me, I'd like to end by blessing you for your work. You know that we, on Saturday mornings, when the Torah is out of the ark, people are called to the Torah, we say special blessings for them. It's called a Misha Berach, right? Which literally means to be blessed. And we bless people in the name of our forefathers and our foremothers. And we bless people who have had new babies or are about to be married, people who people who've just come back from long trips. But we also bless the community. We say a blessing in the name of our ancestors, to everyone who cares for the community with faith, and I would add with love, with deep caring, with deep commitment, and with deep loyalty. So this is the blessing for you, because you are the people that care for this community. You care about this community with love and with caring and with commitment and with deep faith. And I have no doubt that when we're back together again, God willing, in one of your beautiful homes with one of those speakers, I saw Mayim Bialik and I saw Tova Felcher and I saw these great speakers, and they're able to travel again to inspire us and to join us, that you'll know that the work you've done from this moment this year to this moment next year is powerful, life-saving work on behalf of the Jewish people. Thank you for letting me be a part of your program again, and I can't wait to be with you in person next time.
Thank you, Eric. We can't wait for you to be here in person next time, hopefully, and are so proud to be part of this amazing organization and all the important work that we do. And we're very grateful that you were able to join us, and thank you for your kind words for our community as well. And now we continue our great evening together with the tour of Majorca that you've been waiting for. I'd like to welcome Rabbi Shinder from Temple Beth Shalom to introduce our next presenter.
Thank you, Risa. I want to thank Eric for your powerful words, and for you to provide me with a kind of transition. You mentioned that great story of the two men in Chelm. I think today, of all days, they really could have used an umbrella, especially in a one without holes. I was thinking today that that it looked outside a little bit Mabul Mayim of the Noah story. Instead, Jews throughout the world read the story of Vayetze, and this provides a connection to our speaker. We know the story of Jacob going out on his journey, and having the dream of angels ascending and descending and having an experience of being in a Makom Kadosh, a holy place. And he says, surely this is a place, a Beit El. Well, Donnie Rothstein and I met as very young people at congregation at Temple Beth El in our native New Jersey. So it's been a couple of decades, and I was a little bit older than Donnie, but we have the opportunity to welcome him to our fabulous community celebration this evening. Donnie has done many things in his professional career. He was a producer of television commercials in New York and Miami, and he made his way to Spain. And now he is an educator and a community builder with the initiative he started with his wife, Carla, in Spain. Tonight we'll learn about Jewish Mallorca, their educational tourism, and see some beautiful sights. Tonight, as we celebrate Liz and Irv and the great work that our entire federation does, especially in the Zuhor initiative I'm thinking of now, we can appreciate how Donnie's work toward the revival of Jewish life in Spain, he hopes, can lead to awareness and tolerance throughout Europe. Speaking of Europe, before COVID, I traveled to England. On a particularly rain and cold day in August, I was on a cruise ship down the Thames, and the captain of the ship was pointing out different sights along the way. And among his different things, he said, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I want to apologize for the weather. After all, it is England, and if you wanted good weather, you should have gone to Spain. And so, in the midst of a cold and rainy fall day here, we call upon Donnie Rothstein to take us to Spain.
Wow, thank you so much, Rabbi Rebecca. It is unbelievable to see you again and to see this unbelievable amount of connections already. Barbara Zucker is here saying, "Hey, did you go to Camp Young Judea with my daughter Tamara?" I guess, yes, Tamara is a very, very good friend of mine from back in the day. So this is incredible to be here. Thank you so much for having me be a part of this program. I'm very, very, very excited to take you on what I would like to imagine us all actually virtually going to what's behind me, to beautiful Mallorca Island. And for those who don't know where that is, I'd like to share with you all. Imagine you're on a plane and you have that little map in front of you so you can actually see where you're traveling to. So here we are in beautiful Mediterranean, right? And in between Spain and Italy is a little archipelago called the Balearic Islands, okay? And so on the top right, you have Menorca. On the bottom left, you will have Ibiza. Right? Many people are familiar with Ibiza. Another island, Formentera. And in the big one right smack in the middle is Mallorca. And if you go in even closer, you will see the big capital city where I am right now, Palma de Mallorca, that actually was a huge trade and commerce hub for centuries. And what I love showing people here is if you could see this little zigzag avenue that goes around, that actually used to be where the medieval walls stood up until as late as the late 1800s. Is incredible when they took those down. And as we go in a little bit closer, I'm excited to share with you all a top view of our beautiful jewel of the island, this incredible architectural piece of the cathedral. It is one of the only cathedrals that is built on the water. Okay, so this is all man-made right here, and this highway that comes across. And we are going to be exploring today the Jewish quarters that are right alongside that cathedral. And what I'm just waiting for the lovely Google Earth to show us here is this pretty incredible rose window that's in the cathedral. By the way, this was built from the year 1300 to the year 1600. And if you guys can all see that with me, you will see a Magen David in the rose window. So there's this is what I'm actually very excited to talk to you all about, is this idea of double identity, secret identity. We're going to be talking about that today, where people were for centuries showing that they were Catholic on the outside, but secretly keeping the Jewish spirit within. But enough about jumping into history, enough about getting to share this incredible story with you. Let's go back to traveling, this idea of when we used to be able to travel. And I'm very excited for you all to take a step back, look out your virtual window to your left, look out your virtual window to your right, and enjoy these beautiful images of Majorca Island, the new place that I call home. And welcome to Majorca. So that's just a little taste of Majorca Island, beautiful beaches, incredible mountain range, home to a very famous tennis celebrity that not everyone knows is from Majorca. Rafa Nadal is actually from our island, and also home to what I believe is a fascinating piece of Jewish history that not many people know about, which I get to share a little bit of today. So my story, as Rabbi Rebecca mentioned, I grew up in New Jersey. My father is from Netanya, Israel originally, and my mother is from Westchester, Hartsdale, New York. And I basically was a film producer in New York for many years. I went to Young Judea sleepaway camps I mentioned earlier. And I was always fascinated with Spain because I studied abroad there. So 7 years ago, I made a quick decision. I needed to take a break from producing in New York, and I was able to very excitingly get a job in Majorca Island, and that's why I moved there. Is with a company called Palma Pictures, and they produce TV commercials. And so I was pretty intent that I was going to go and be the only Jew living on the island. But when I got here, I found out that there's a synagogue that was started 50 years ago by British expats. Okay, so British Ashkenazi Jews retired in Majorca and started this synagogue that is still here today. Now it's become more Sephardic. It's definitely has more of that Spanish vibe to it. And when I went in, I'll never forget this experience because, I was raised in a Reformed conservative household. So, going to an Orthodox synagogue where there's men separating from women and the mechitza divider, was not something that I had grown up with. And so I'm in the men's section, and there's no rabbi, by the way, no Hazan. This is a volunteer that is constantly, only Friday nights is when they have the synagogue open because they can't get a minyan for Saturday. I was davening and we were praying, and all of a sudden the volunteer Hazan said, we have to skip a prayer. We have to skip the Kadesh because we don't have a minyan, because we don't have 10 Jewish men in this particular synagogue's faith practice. But I was very confused because I counted in the men's section 14 men, and I didn't understand why we were skipping. And I asked the guy next to me, why are we skipping? It's obvious we have a minyan. There's 14 of us here. And he turned to me and he said very nonchalantly, oh, that's because some of these men are not Jewish. They're chueta. And I had never heard this term chueta before. I would like to share with you a PowerPoint slide. Hopefully everyone can see that. This is how you say the word chueta, which is Catalan. They speak Mallorquin, which is a dialect here in Majorca of Catalan. It's a different language from Spanish. And it's basically describing Catholic descendants of the Jewish conversos of this island. There's 15 families that were always discriminated against, stigmatized for having Jewish roots here. And their derogatory term was chueta. And now I'm very excited to share with you that some of them are coming back to the Jewish faith, or coming back to the synagogue, not counting as a minyan because they need to go through the formal process of conversion or return. And it's very, very inspiring for someone like myself to come and meet these people. So I want to tell you a little bit about their story. Where does this word chouette come from? There's a couple ideas that it could come from French, meaning chien is a dog, or chouette is a female owl. Also in Catalan, the word xulla is bacon or pork. So these families, since everyone knew who they were, there's legend that says that they would cook the bacon and pork outside their homes to show everyone that they are no longer practicing Judaism. They are no longer keeping kashrut. They do not need to be, they just want to be a part of the rest of society. And the last word is jueu. That's how you say the word Jew in Catalan. And a not nice way to call someone Jewish is jueto, you little Jew. So listen to how it sounds. Jueto and chueto. Very, very similar. You should know that the Chuetas have been marrying within this group of 15 families up until as late as the 1930s, 1940s. And there are still people today who can show that they've never married out of these 15 families. So just a brief highlights of the history, because it's very, very profound. 1435, a huge event happens in Mallorca where there is a mass conversion. Okay, we're going to learn about it right now. We're going to actually go and see the church where this mass conversion happened. Hundreds of Jews went into that church and came out as Christian. So that created from 1435 to 1691 this time of crypto Jews. They're also known as conversos, and they're also known as new Christians. And in 1691, a terrible event happened, which we're going to find out about now. That's where the stigmatized Chuetas, this group of Catholic descendants of the Jewish conversos of the island, were always separated. They lived in a separate area called Segel Street, and they were also just called people from the street. It was almost like as a derogatory way to share. So I want to take us on the streets behind me, and I'm going to whisk us all away to the church where this mass conversion happened. So hopefully you all enjoy this little clip.
Now we're going to go on what I like to call a little scavenger hunt, because this walk and talk experience is called the Secret Jews of Mallorca. Okay? Secret because not a lot of people know about this history we just learned. Also because sometimes where's the best place to keep a secret? Right under your nose, right? Because you don't see it, right? So that's what we're going to discover today. Sometimes there's so many things to learn about that if you didn't know where to look or that it was there, you wouldn't see it. And that's a lot of this history that we talked about, the secret Jews. I mean, that's a long time, 250 years under the Inquisition, still practicing Judaism, right underneath where the Inquisition was. Pretty interesting stuff. So come follow me. We're going to be trying to learn and discover the secrets of Jewish Mallorca. I stop here because I want to point out the beautiful church of Santa Eulalia, okay? This is where the mass conversion happened. In 1435, the entire Jewish population walked into that church as Jews, and they were baptized and came out as Catholics. That church was there before the cathedral. The cathedral was built from 1300 to 1600, more or less, and so this church was already there. Also very interesting, this church was called the Church of the Conversos for many years. Why? Because right on the left is Plateria, is Argenteria, is Silvermaker Street. And so all the Chuetas lived there. This was their church. This is where they would come. And I've heard from different Chuetas that I'm friends with today that people from all over the island would come just to watch the Chuetas pray, because they would pray so demonstratively, so passionately and emphatically to show the rest how good practicing Catholics they were. There's a saying, I'm told, in the Chueta culture or families, it's not worth going to church unless there's people inside it. Meaning the whole point to go to church is so other people can see you going to church, which is an interesting thing to think about. So Santa Eulalia used to be nicknamed Church of the Conversos. Just a quick note, because I didn't get to talk about it earlier. After this attack in 1391, which happened on August 2nd, okay, we just passed it, the Jews were forced to wear the rodea, okay, yellow and red circle, to identify who was Jewish and who was not, which of course when you think about what happened in Nazi Germany during the Holocaust with this Jewish star, that there is definitely a connection there. So I really want to make that statement very boldly, that I think it's important that we learn about history so we can hopefully prevent from it to repeat and not to happen again. And that's an example. I wonder if the German Jews at that time were forced to wear stars, if they had known that hundreds of years their ancestors were forced to wear red and yellow circles, I don't know, maybe more would have been saved because they knew what was coming. I don't know. I think this is a good example of how important it is to talk about history.
So that was just again a little taste, a little glimpse of coming into the streets with me, and I also want to remind everyone or tell everyone to start that please go into the chat and put any questions that you might have that are coming up, because just in a couple minutes we can move to a Q&A. I'm very excited to hear any questions and tell you more. That last comment that I made in the video about telling history, I think has become my new passion. So I was producing TV commercials for a very long time, but when I found out about this fascinating history, I feel like I had a new purpose, which was to share this history with as many people as possible, because I really do think that showing that this group of people who were marginalized and stigmatized just for having a last name, they're not even practicing Jews. They're some of the most Catholic people you could ever meet, because they're always trying to prove how Catholic they are. But somehow telling the story, I think, is so important to show how ridiculous and silly hate and intolerance is. And so that is why I was inspired to make a documentary, which I'm very excited to share with you all, is premiering this weekend, literally today at the Austin Jewish Film Festival. And I'm excited to share just a little piece of that documentary with you all tonight, talking about the terrible events that happened in Mallorca in 1688 and 1691. So this is like a kind of a sneak peek VIP preview that you guys all get to see. So I hope you all enjoy this little clip. By the way, I'm in the video talking about trying to create a scavenger hunt, like escape room experience, to get the youth of today living in Mallorca to know about this history, because it's not being taught and spoken about in schools, and we're trying to change that.
This is an idea that I've had for a while, that imagine that you're with a group of people, like 4 or 5 people, and you get a map and you get a bag with different hints and clues that are in it, okay? It's kind of like a scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
And hold on one sec. Get my bearings. Yeah, look at the name of that street.
Shalom, like shalom.
Yeah, so little clues like that. You see like a 2-minute video that like gets you into the mood and stuff like that. And all of this is because you're trying to escape the Jewish quarter of Palma.
Okay, oh wow.
Calle de la Sinagoga Vela.
Okay,
The Jews of like the 1300s when they built, 1200s when they built this Jewish quarter. So this is the site of an old synagogue somewhere here. We don't know where exactly.
Oh wow.
There it is, in the walls. Just, es como hay una gincana esperando para salir de las paredes. The old walls and tiny alleyways of Palma's Jewish quarter are a perfect setting for a scavenger hunt or escape room, recalling the times when Jews had to hide from the Inquisition. On the evening of March 7th in the year 1688, one of the most dramatic episodes took place. A group of about 40 crypto Jews secretly boarded an English ship in order to flee the Inquisition. Unfortunately, a storm was brewing at sea and caused the ship to never leave port, and they had to return to the walled city where they were reported and captured. They were tortured and kept in the secret prisons for 3 years, and in 1691, 4 autos de fe, or public executions by way of burning at the stake, were held, in which 88 people were convicted. 37 of them condemned and killed. 3 of them, Caterina Taronji and Rafaelette Benito Taronji and Rabbi Raphael Weiss, were burned alive in front of 30,000 people for not giving up their Judaism publicly. It is what is remembered in the Mallorquin language as the Cremadissa. It is after this terrible event that the descendants of the Jewish conversos will begin to be called Chuetas. It's a real story. It happened here, and it's that night, and you're trying to get together, and you have to do a couple tasks and certain things before you can escape, get out of the city, and get on a boat and go to freedom because the Inquisition is here and they're coming after you. You're trying to get out for your life, and you come out of it a little sad, a little depressed, because no matter which way, the story doesn't end well for you.
So that was a little clip that I'm so very excited, and I hope that it'll be coming out to other places, other film festivals very soon. And it's important that, you know, when we made this documentary, it wasn't about telling the history alone, but talking about today, the fact that there's about 15 people with Chueta last names who have returned to Judaism, and not only are members of the Jewish community, but 3 years ago, myself and 3 of them as well, all 4 of us were elected to be the board of the directors. And it's been incredible to be a part of this Jewish revival that's taking place in a place that has not had Judaism for so long. And so what I want to share with you again is a video that we just finished a week ago of the way we celebrated Sukkot here just a month ago. And we did it in an open and inclusive way, inviting all members of the Mallorquin society to come and be in our sukkah. And it was the first time ever that a sukkah was built publicly, that the city hall sponsored Limud Mallorca, which is the organization my wife and I started, the chapter of Limud. Limud is a global organization. And it's been incredible to be able to share Yiddishkeit and share our Jewish culture with those who want to connect to it and want to reconnect to it after not having been in their families for 600 years. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this last video, and then we can move to questions and answers, which I'm so excited to hear from you all. So here is the way we did Sukkot. Okay, there it is. If you see a little boy running around throughout there, Rabbi Rebecca, that's our son, Oren, who was born on Tu B'Shvat. This is Tony Pina, who is Chueta, who is now our kosher chef, and he has returned to Judaism about 10 years ago. That's my wife, Carla. This was very important. We had a young gentleman who's on his own path to conversion, who had lived in Israel, give a beautiful speech and talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This is Shaul, one of our Israelis that lived on the island, who has a beautiful farm that does permaculture. And he built the sukkah. So yeah, I'm really excited to share all these like hot off the presses news and videos and information for everyone. Speaking of news, I'm gonna go take a look at the chat. Any questions that come up, feel free to ask. Rabbi Rebecca asked, are there any rabbis, cantors, and or Jewish teachers in Mallorca today? The answer is yes. This past June, we were able to get funding from the Federation of Jewish Communities in Spain, sitting in Madrid, to finally have a rabbi, which we have not had for over 15 years. And quite excitingly, we were able to bring Rav Nisan ben Avraham, who is originally named Nikolai Aguilo. He is one of two rabbis who are Chueta, who were born and raised Catholic in Mallorca, made Aliyah in the 70s, and Rav Nisan has converted because his mother was not Chueta to Judaism. He has 12 children living in Shiloh, and he's a ultra-Orthodox rabbi, and he comes 10 days a month to be with us, and he is teaching Torah on Zoom when he's not with us. And I'm also very excited that tomorrow we're starting our first ever children's programming with two Israelis that are living on the island who are teachers, and they're going to be doing, one's going to be speaking in Spanish and English, while the other one is speaking in Hebrew the whole time. And so my wife, Carla, organized an incredible curriculum that also is getting support from Madrid. And that starts tomorrow for 6 months. We're going to have children's education, which is very, very exciting. Sharon is asking, were you fluent in Spanish before you moved to Spain? The answer is yes. I lived in a Spanish-speaking country within the United States for a little bit, which is called Miami. Some of you might be familiar with it. And I was very, very lucky to be practicing my Spanish in Miami. And when I lived in Spain for a year, I lived with a senora who didn't speak any English. It's actually kind of funny. I'll never forget when I first moved there. And I said, oh, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Donnie, I'm Jewish. And she goes, okay, is there anything you don't eat or anything? I'm like, actually, I don't eat any pork. And she goes, oh, okay, you don't eat pork, no problem. But you eat ham, right? I'm like, no, I don't eat that either. But here in Spain, ham is very, very important. So they don't kind of consider it being different. So yeah, I'm getting a couple questions about, yes, absolutely. If you guys want to follow news about the documentary or our virtual programs that we're doing, just go to jewishmajorca.com. That was one of the questions that are being asked. Oh, this is so fun. There's lots of other YJ connections that are coming. Yeah, I'm happy to open up the floor, or Wendy or Risa, Sharon, however you see fit, to take any more questions. And yeah, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You can raise your hand if you have a question and you'll pop up. Irv, unmute yourself, please.
This isn't a question, but a comment apropos of what Danny was referencing about conversos. I just happened to finish reading today in the current issue of Smithsonian Magazine about a devout Catholic consular person from Portugal who had a suspicion that his family was converso, who signed visas allowing Jews in southern France and non-Jews also to escape the Nazis in the spring of 1940. So I just thought it was quite topical in reference to what Danny was talking about.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, there's
The name was,
do you remember the name?
his last name was Mendez.
Mendez. And out of Portugal, you said.
Yes.
Yeah, it's incredible the amount of history that is connected to that part of in this part of the world. There's also a huge history which we couldn't even nearly scrape the bottom of right now, of German Jews hiding in Mallorca in the 30s. They were able to get out of Germany, and Franco, when he won the Civil War, issued them all deportation letters saying you are no longer welcome, you are no longer part of the New Spain. And it's incredible to know that these Jewish families had to leave Mallorca, and some knew what was waiting for them in Germany. And there was actually one family that ended up committing suicide because they did not want to go back to Germany. And we actually, this past February, just put memorials in front of the homes where they lived. So that goes into Kathy's question. So it's asking, have you had positive support from the government there? And the answer is yes. I mean, I do, especially from the local government. They're helping us, the Jewish community, do Jewish activities. We celebrated Rosh Hashanah, Jewish New Year, for everyone in an open and inclusive way. We started out with one day in September being like Jewish Culture Day. That was 10 years ago. Now we're up to 2 months. All of September and all of October is Jewish Culture Month, where we are doing tours of the Jewish Quarter, film series, events in the Sukkot, like you just saw the video of. So I do feel like there is a renewed sense of interest in this history, in this legacy, and it's fascinating. We are actually now going into public schools and teaching about Holocaust education, and it's quite shocking for me to go in and say, hi, please raise your hand if you have never met anyone Jewish before. All the hands go up, and and it's so fun to be able to be this kind of, like face, like put a face to okay, we're not something from history books, and we're not a part of a museum. Like we're here, we actually live on the island with you. And so it's beautiful to connect to the students, especially locally. But we're also excited. Something that Eric said that really hit home is that, when times are need, you need to have a community to go to. We need to recreate that community here on the island. So that's the work that we're involved in right now. So it's super exciting to share this story with all of you.
Carol, you need to unmute.
Hello, I want, excuse me. I
So,
want to know if you could give your email address.
oh,
Absolutely. Yeah, I can put that here into the chat, and I'm sure any of the organizers would be happy to share in case you're not able to go to the chat or look at the chat. But happy to stay in touch with everyone. And I really hope to welcome you all in person one day. Please, God, come and visit us in Mallorca Island. We just can't wait to meet you all in person and to organize the trip when that will be. So I just want to say a huge thank you to Wendy, Sharon, and Risa, and Rabbi Rebecca, and everyone at Federation for inviting me to be part of such a special program. And thank you for all the work that you all are doing. It's so exciting to be a part of that. Thank you.
So Danny, I would like to tell you, my name is Carol Levine. Most people will have known we were in the shoe business for over 50 years, and we did business in Menorca.
Ah.
So I visited many times to Mallorca, but most people always confuse Menorca with Mallorca. In the meanwhile, we have connections very close with what I call my Spanish family there. And the woman in the who was in the shoe, the wife of the person that we bought shoes from regularly, had a Jewish star around her neck. We didn't speak enough Spanish in order to really communicate with her. And at that time, even their children, who we're very friendly with, did not speak enough English. So we never could really find out why she had this. But we were always sure that there were Jews in Menorca as well. And
Yep.
probably her family at one time might have been Jewish and passed this along. So it's fascinating to know what you're doing in Mallorca. And I would love to see if you could ever follow up anything in Menorca, because at this point, Menorca has now become quite famous because there's an English gallery now that has opened outside of Mahone. And I was there about 3 years ago to visit. And I hope to take my kids, who are also very friendly with their children, and back and forth, because we're really very close as a family. But actually, we did business with them for over 50 years. And we now have someone else who is doing business for us there, manufacturing shoes with our name in it. So it's fascinating to see this. And maybe you'll get over to Menorca, because most people have never know where it is or ever heard of it.
Exactly. And we've gone there a bunch of times. I actually just ran a triathlon there a month ago. And I'm so excited to explore the Jewish history of Menorca, because that is even more fascinating in the sense of it was under British rule for so long. And so there's like, whenever it was under British rule, Jews suddenly came back to the island. And then when it went back under Spanish rule, they left again. And so there's a lot there to explore and to dig deeper.
It's
Thank you so much.
changed really over the years. It's very different than when we went there in the 70s. Today, it's a whole different world, but it would be interesting to see if you could find out any history, Jewish history there, because we're sure there was something going on there.
Please stay in touch, because I'd love to visit you on your next time here.
A real coincidence to hear you speak.
We have one last question. Do you see it, Donnie?
Sure. Debbie's asking, have you experienced any anti-Semitism or resistance in trying to educate or reintroduce people to Jewish culture? I personally have not. When people ask me about experiencing anti-Semitism in Mallorca or in Spain, I really say it's more about ignorance, because there's not a lot of Jews or Jewish life that is visible to the general public. So like I said, when I go to schools, no one's ever met anyone Jewish before. So I think from that reason alone, there's nowhere to be anti-Semitic, because there's no one to be anti-Semitic against, really. We're not seen technically. That being said, I think that people have been very interested to explore this part of history. And so, yes, there are times where you see things that are not like done appropriately when it comes to, like, for example, the Holocaust. There have been definitely events that have come out of Spain like that. But no, I can honestly say very, very lucky that that the anti-Semitism, us in Mallorca, it's quite the opposite. There's people just who want to learn about it and know they don't know enough about it. So I'm very lucky for that reason.
That's good. I hope that continues. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Donnie. And we would love to come and have Major Gifts live in person, Mallorca, one of these days. So thank you so much for a wonderful program. Thank you. As we continue as a community to emerge from our COVID-19 challenges, our federation remains strong, as you've heard from Eric Fingerhut and many of the work that we're doing tonight. We've been an important resource in the Orange County community since 1977, and it is this longevity that led to the creation last year of our Ner Tamid Society. Ner Tamid was created to honor those who have given at any level to our federation for 18 or more years, and there are many people to honor in this category. Tonight, we celebrate all 181 Ner Tamid members whose annual gifts totaled more than $81,000 in our annual campaign last year. In fact, our major gifts honorees tonight, Irvin, Liz, Kadesh, embody the best of our Ner Tamid givers. Their longstanding commitment of giving and service is a testament to the strength of our community. They are truly eternal lights to us, and we thank you and are so proud to honor you tonight. And now I am pleased to ask Steve Rubinski, Federation past president and current board member, to introduce tonight's honorees.
Hello, everyone. I'm honored to present our honorees tonight, Liz and Irv Kadesh. Before I speak about why they're being honored, I wanted to share a recent story about them. After 56 years of marriage, Liz and Irv went to a marriage counselor. Liz said to the counselor that she feels lonely, neglected, unappreciated, and has a lack of intimacy. The therapist asked her to stand up. He gave her a passionate kiss. She then sat back down, somewhat in a fog about what just happened. The therapist turned to Irv and said, "Can you do this 3 times a week? Can you do this?" Irv replied, "I can drop her off on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but Friday I am busy." Let's get to the heart of tonight's presentation. Irv, smart, dedicated, committed. A PhD from Yeshiva University, a SUNY professor in psychology. Clinical cognitive behavioral therapist for persons with disabilities, private psychology practice. I had the pleasure of working directly with Irv. Proudest of making a difference in the lives of people he served, and a member of Federation Board for 16 years. Liz, smart, dedicated, committed. You get the coincidence. SUNY professor and certified social worker. Became founding director of Jewish Family Services in 1984. She started quarter-time and grew this into a full-time position and grew this marvelous organization. I asked Joan Birnbaum about the affiliation of JFS and Federation during these early days, and what he said to me is he was elated at the opportunity to make a difference in our community with JFS, especially with Liz at the helm. During Liz's tenure in 1984 through 2008, JFS became a training site for social workers, developed programs for seniors, teens, Russian refugees, Jewish singles, people in financial crises, children and adults with disabilities. Even after Liz left, she came back a second time in retirement as a program director for children with special needs, grant writer for JFS, and a part-time field instructor for the Adelphi University Grad School of Social Work. Liz is most proud of helping to establish an agency that earned a reputation for innovative programming and quality of service, helping staff and students to develop leadership and social work skills, and leaving a legacy that she hopes will continue to benefit the community. Let's now talk about Liz and Irv together. They're proud parents of 2 married sons and 3 grandchildren. They've been members of the Monroe Temple of Liberal Judaism for 40 years. They love to travel to Paris, Tuscany, Provence. Their bucket list dream is to see the Aurora Borealis. I